About a month and a half ago, on one of my other lives, NBA TV, we were asked who could challenge Golden State. And I said the one team to me is the Houston Rockets for this reason. Number one, most of all, because of their head coach. They're not afraid to get into a shootout with them. You want to shoot a three? We'll shoot a three. You want to shoot another? We'll shoot another. So they're not going to back off winning 160 to 159 like some of the other teams would do. And then if you look at what this team has done, the improvement. First of all, one team, Harden, leading scorer in the league. The other team, Curry, fourth in the league in scoring. One team improved defensively so much from a year ago. Right now, Golden State is 21 in the league in opponents' points per game. Houston, 11 in the league in opponents' points per game. But Golden State's opponents' field goal percentage much better than Houston's. Most improved player. How about Capela from Houston? That's right. One of the guys you could talk about.
The guy that Kevin Durant has an easy job.
Right.
You know what? He does one thing well. Knows where he's rolling to, gets to the front of the rim, catches it, and dunks it.
And good defender.
Pretty good job, yeah. And then you look at, they added Joe Johnson, big shot, Joe Johnson at the end. This team is a deep, solid team that has one all-star point guard on the court at all times. You want to rest Harden, you got Chris Paul. Want to rest Chris Paul, you have Harden running the show. Why couldn't they beat him? Only one injury to knock a team out of a chance for a championship. Remember that.
Daryl Morey said when he was asked about the fit of Harden and Paul, he said, you know, he's obviously an analytical-based GM, but he had a very basic point. He said, I'm a big believer you add as many Team USA players as you possibly can and figure it out from there. And that's what they did. People didn't know Harden and Paul would fit together, but the point you make is critical. When the Thunder, when they still had KD, what their biggest adjustment that Scott Brooks made and Billy Donovan eventually made is they made sure Russ and KD, one of them is playing at all times. It gives us a great chance to have the best player on the court at all times. With the Warriors, Steph or KD in big games, one of them is playing at all times. The Rockets are doing the same thing. And you mentioned Capela, and this is why I do believe that the Rockets are a real threat. Not a 1 in 10 chance, not a they need Golden State to get hurt, but they could go toe-to-toe with them and beat them. Not be the favorites, but they could beat them. There have been 31 games this year with Chris Paul, James Harden, and Clint Capela play. They are 30-1 in those 31 games. When they have their big three, people forget Capela's importance because of the defensive end. They have been as good as any team in the sport, and that's a big sample size. That's 40% of a season.
Let me throw this out at you. The one, I'll call it bad stretch that Houston has had this year, not like they've had a lot of bad stretches, but the one period that they were a little bit not the super team that they are, who was missing from the lineup? Capela.
Yes.
He was out injured. But as soon as he came back, they're back on that run once again.
Yeah, and I don't want to put too much into the regular season matchups, but they're 2-1 against Golden State. The last time they played, they beat them by 8, and it was all the stars were playing. So that's a good sample size for this team. But the one, I don't really have a question about this, but a lot of people bring it up. James Harden and Chris Paul in the clutch. Now, Chris Paul has had some good clutch moments, but he's had some bad ones. Even last year, Game 7 against Utah, 13 points, didn't shoot well from the field, and he had been killing it in that series. Was almost averaging 30 in the first 6 games. 7th game, just couldn't deliver. We've seen it against Westbrook in the OKC series a few years ago.
And Harden's had a bunch of bad moments.
Harden's had, last year, Game 6, you think he was concussed, whatever the case. He didn't come up. He didn't even look like himself. He didn't look like he wanted to shoot. He looked like he kind of froze up. We saw it against Golden State in 2015. So I have a question on that. And then also, a lot of people around the league, as great of a coach as Mike D'Antoni is, what I hear from a lot of people is his weakness is lack of attention to detail. And when he had those Phoenix teams, when they got beat by San Antonio a few times, it was always the messed up rotation, a turnover at the wrong time, some lack of execution where San Antonio did not make those types of mistakes and Phoenix did, even guys getting off the bench. But that, during a scrum, they got guys suspended.
Do you think that could come criticism's
into
fair?
Flow.
Let me say this. If there are criticisms about Mike D'Antoni, I wish I had the same faults he had because, 1, he keeps getting jobs. 2, he keeps winning. He's been to NBA Finals. I haven't done any of those things, okay? And Mike D'Antoni does what he does so well. Think about who brought this system that we see right now to the NBA.
7
Do you remember
seconds
the
or
old
less.
Denver teams? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, like this, they're terrible. Watch them. But you know, when you have better players doing that same thing, they look better than they did. He couldn't coach in New York, could he? I wonder why.
Right.
Why couldn't he
Didn't
coach
have
in New
the
York?
right guys.
Maybe didn't have the right guys. Okay,
Yep.
You can mix that thing up, but it's got to be the right mixture together.
I'm giving them a 30% chance to beat Golden State. What do you say, percentage-wise?
They have a chance. And like I said, they certainly do. Percentage-wise, I don't know, but I always go back to this. Let's go back to San Antonio. Was San Antonio on a roll last year against Golden State in that playoff game until Kawhi Leonard got hurt? A 20-something point lead disappears.
Remind me
they
who
lose,
hurt him,
and they're
Broussard?
gone.
Oh, Zaza did.
He can talk about that, too. He wants Zaza out of the league.
The one thing and the one reason no one's worried about Golden State is because we all truly believe that when it's time for them to play well, they'll play well. When it's time for them to step up, they'll step up. When they need to switch into a higher gear, they'll switch into a higher gear. They know when they need to. Does Houston have that ability? Do you see Houston getting that much better than they are right now? Do they have a second gear? Or are you worried about, as we always talk about, Chris Paul and James Harden in the postseason?
Let's remember, Houston is so much stronger and better now than they were a year ago. First thing I thought they did well was they added toughness. They added some toughness to their P.J. Tucker, not a bad pickup because he comes out, he beats people up. Then they bring a guy in like, Joe Johnson.
Luke Mabamute has been a good pickup for them
exactly. And this team has developed defensively, and I don't want to put this on one guy, but Jeff Bzdelik is on the bench right now. And from what I hear, early in the year, the staff sat together and they put Bzdelik in charge of the defense, and Mike D'Antoni said, you have this many minutes in practice for defense. Now, whether it was 15, 18, 20, 22, Bzdelik has made the most of it. They are a much improved defense.
One very interesting note on the Rockets, last thing I'll say on this. They can beat you anyway. They have 2 winning streaks this year of 13-plus games. Micah Adams tweeted this out yesterday. It's unbelievable. Their first 13-game winning streak, they had the 5th fastest pace in the league. The current 13-game winning streak, the slowest pace in the league. So if you want to grind it out and slow it down like San Antonio might in a series, we can beat you that way. You want to go up and down the court like we know Golden State will, we can beat you that way as well. This is as complete of a team as we have in the league outside of possibly Golden State with its 4 Hall of Famers.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.